All right, Casper. Let's see who's pushing then. Ruud wins his biggest title ever in Madrid, a Masters 1000 in pretty great form over Jack Draper, who was on an absolute heater. Jack Draper was the favorite going in, according to Betway, but Casper Ruud flipped the switch, played better in the bigger moments, and got it done. So is he a threat at the French Open? We'll talk about that, but we're going to break down this match and how Casper was able to rein in Draper and come out with the W. So this is the slice presented by Betway. Let's break it down and get into it. All right. Well, you got to feel happy for Casper Ruud if you are his fan or if you're just a fan of tennis in general. For the last while, and in general, I feel Casper Ruud has been taking an undeserved amount of criticism. Before he won the 500 in Barcelona last year, he had only won 250s, many of them, I think maybe all of them on clay. So people were saying he's only, a clay player. He's poaches these 250 events. And a lot of people have called him like pusher, or it's, some type of player that didn't have really an offensive game. And I asked him about that back in 2022. And he said, which we just posted on our Instagram, he said, yeah, I've heard that. People can call me a pusher if they want. I'd happily challenge anyone who says that to a match, and we'll see who's pushing then. Just to me, one of the all-time most gangster quotes I've seen in person. I was like, yeah. So he's developed his game. Casper Ruud has made his backhand more flat, giving him more power through the court. And he's just continued to build his monster forehand, his monster game. He's made his serve a bit better. It's incrementally changing. He's still not the biggest guy. He's stronger, a lot stronger than I think people know. But anyways, he's gotten to a place where he just beat Jack Draper in the final of the Madrid Open to win his first ever Masters 1000 and to put him in a very good spot heading into Roland Garros as far as his form goes. So huge up to Casper Ruud, his fans. Thanks for being here. If you're new here, subscribe to The Slice to get reviews like this, interviews with pro players when we're at tournaments, and all the tennis content that you will need. So thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing. Let's get into this match a little bit more. But yeah, before we do that, let's just take a quick look at Ruud's run in Madrid. He beats Rinderknech in the first round of round of 64, 6-3. His first set that he lost was in the final. Then he beat Sebastian Korda in the second round, Taylor Fritz in the third round, Daniil Medvedev in the fourth round quarterfinals, then Francisco Cerundolo in the semifinals. That was a tough one. And then he beat Jack Draper, who, like we said, has been in incredible form, who's the fifth seed, and he gets it done. In this match, the matchup I predicted, like I said, Betway had Jack Draper as the favorite, and I thought Draper would win. But I said Casper has a lot more experience and bigger results on clay than Jack does for sure. Having won Barcelona, having won many 250s, and having been to the French Open final twice. So the aspects of the game that had been great for Jack were his serve. He was serving huge, but his forehand was causing serious problems for everyone he played, including Lorenzo Musetti in the semifinals. And I thought that would be a lot to handle for Casper. But Casper showed today how there's levels to the game in clay. It's not about obviously just how big you can hit, but the way Casper was defending on the serve, on the return, but in the points was pretty amazing. And he also showed that he has a forehand that is a point ender, and he ended many points with forehand winners, down the line, cross court, a lot of down the line ones, including the setup match point. He hit one where he let out a huge roar, and you could just tell how good he was feeling about that shot. And yeah, I think Casper Ruud stepped up in a big way to push back on what Jack Draper was trying to bring to this match with pushing Casper around the court. So how did it go? First set, Jack Draper's up early, gets a break early, and then serves for the set, gets broken. Casper holds, and then Casper breaks again. 3 games on the trot to come from down a break trying to stay in the set to winning the set for Casper, and Jack Draper was showing some serious frustration, which is not super common to his box. And then Jack Draper comes back and wins the second set, and maybe you're thinking, okay, here we go. This is where Jack is able to run away with it. But earlier on in the third set, Casper gets the break, and he got the break, I believe, to set up break point with another one. He had done this earlier in the match in the end parts, I believe, when he had to break back in the first set, like a lob return essentially. So Jack hits these slider left-handed serves out wide, and then Casper hits a high lob return, which essentially, like, if you're coming into serve and volley, you have to run back, but it's like a moon ball return, and it lands ideally a couple feet from the baseline, and it's impossible to attack, and it essentially takes you from a deep return position where you're on the defensive, and he can hit that shot pretty consistently. And then it puts you essentially into at least neutral in the rally, if not to be able to attack the next ball. And he won 2 big points playing that shot. Casper did that to break in the third set and in the first set when he needed to break to get that back in the set. So that was super interesting from Casper, and I've seen him do that before a lot. I've talked to him in person about that shot, and he says on clay it's just such a great shot to kind of throw off the opponent's rhythm and to make them play that point on your terms from back then, because they're not used to seeing balls like that. And if you can get it deep to the baseline, based on how high it's going to bounce, they either have to take it right off the half volley on the baseline, which is hard to do a lot with, or they have to back way up and play it, which usually is what happens. So when they were both, Jack and Casper were both deep in the court, Casper was totally able to hang with Jack and play the big heavy balls that they both have. When Jack stepped up and was able to take the ball early, his cross-court backhand was causing serious problems for Casper. It causes problems for everyone because it's so flat, and he just gets through it quickly, and it gets across the court quickly. And it's into the forehand of the opponent, but it ends up producing like a low quality forehand. And then Jack's down the line forehand of his own, he was, even from a position where his opponent's pretty in the court, Jack was able to hit winners against Musetti, against Ruud, that were stunning, right? Like, they would just come out, they'd be like, oh, where's he going with this ball? Winner down the line, point over. He had that finisher shot as well. Both of them did. They both hit their forehands incredibly well. Even more surprisingly, I would say Ruud, but people forget how big and good Ruud's forehand is, especially on the clay. So yeah, his forehand was the story of the match. His serving, I thought, was really well. We'll pull up the stats here in a second. And those two things made him pretty close to even with Jack as far as power and pace from the baseline. And then he was able to, as Jack said, play more brave in the bigger moments and take over the match when it mattered, like in the first set and then the third set. So serve rating, 263 from Jack, 9 aces from Casper Ruud. Look at that. 9 aces, 7 double faults. So definitely going bigger on the first serve than maybe he's comfortable with the 7 double faults. But 2 of them were to get broken in the first set, I believe. First serve points won. That's crazy. Casper Ruud wins 81% of his first serve points compared to 72% of Jack's. So was Ruud the better server on the day? That's big news if he was, because you would not expect that coming in. And then he wins 38% on his second serve, and Jack wins 46%. But when it comes to break point save, they each broke 3 times, but you can see that that Casper was able to force 10 break points on the Jack Draper serve, where to only 7 for Jack. So huge playing on the serve return from Casper Ruud. And then we go to winners. Both guys had a really clean match. 40 winners to 33 for Ruud, 43 to 30 for Jack. So really a clean, high-level match from both guys. And it'll be interesting here to see the rally analysis. But yeah, 0-4 shot rally, 61 points for Casper Ruud to 52 for Draper. So that's just a total flip of what you would think. And then the longer the rallies went, they favored Jack Draper. But that is kind of, I would think now, seeing these stats, where Casper won the match there was in the serve return, which is not what you would think, because Jack is a bigger serve, but Casper played it so well today, was accurate with his own serve, was going big, and played really well behind it when he got short balls, pounding it, finishing it, coming in. Super impressive from Casper Ruud, and he showed how much experience he has. I think it takes experience to be able to play that way in the big matches. Obviously, Jack's won a Masters 1000, but it happened like a month ago. So Casper's been here a lot. He's been here a lot on the clay, and it's got to feel so good for him getting over the line. He talked about before the match some mental struggles he's kind of been experiencing over the last few months, and he said he's gotten professional help, which I think is very cool. I think it's very brave of him to admit that. A lot of men don't admit that and don't talk about their mental health, but he said he just felt like his tires were spinning. So yeah, that's great for him to have done that, and obviously it's paid off. He won his biggest title of his career, the Madrid Masters 1000. So we've got three different. So we've got Jack Draper wins Indian Wells, Jakub Mensik wins Miami, Alcaraz wins Monte Carlo, and Casper Ruud wins Madrid. So we've got another year where we have 4 different Masters 1000s Open winners to start the year. So now we go to Rome. The draw is not out, but Jannik Sinner will be back, and we hope that Alcaraz will be back with his injury. But from here, I think I'm gonna, if you're still watching, put your comment down below of, I'm gonna put out a video being like, these are the actual contenders for the French Open. Like, who are the players that can win the French Open? And it could be a list of 2 or 10 players. Like, it doesn't matter, but I want you to say in a comment below, who are the players that could actually win it? Like, who are the actual contenders, not the pretenders? So to me, you got to put Djokovic on there. He's won 24 majors. Alcaraz, Sinner, obviously. But who else gets on that list? Does Casper Ruud get on that list? He's been to the final twice. He lost to Nadal and then Djokovic. Nadal's not there, and Djokovic is less likely to be there than he ever has been. So if he plays somebody else who's less experienced in the final, can he use that and get over the line to win a major? That would be incredible for him. But is he on that list of guys that you think can actually win the French Open? I don't know. Will Jack Draper be on there at the French? I'm not sure. At Wimbledon, I think he's definitely on my list. But yeah, for Jack, result today wasn't what he wanted. He will feel like he was up in the first set and he let that one slip, and then he won the second set. So thinking back, he's like, could I have won this in 2 sets? Should I have won this? Like you said, he felt Casper played more brave in the big points, and to win these tournaments, to win these matches, you have to be brave in the big points. And I actually heard his coach James Trotman earlier in the tournament saying something like, it'll pay off for you to be brave now, Jack. He was saying something like that to him during the match. And brave, if you miss when you're trying to be brave, it looks foolish, and when you win the point or the game or whatever and you're playing brave, it looks magnificent. But wasn't quite meant to be today for Jack, but he was close. Another great result. Final of Madrid, wins Indian Wells. He's going to be an absolute wagon to beat no matter where he is going from now on, because his game is just so big, so complete. So anyways, congrats to Casper Ruud and his fans on winning his first ever Masters 1000. Maybe the talk about him being a 250 poacher can stop now. He's won the Masters 1000. He's won a serious title on the ATP Tour. And yeah, like he said, if you think he's not that guy, he would love to play you and see who's pushing then. So anyways, that's the slice. That's an analysis of Casper Ruud's title in Madrid. We will see you in Rome, and we will see you on the podcast with JP. Can't wait for that. So thanks for being here. Thanks for checking in on the slice, and we will see you next time.